Hello, everyone, and welcome to Digital Works TV. I'm Steve Johnson. My guest today is Susan Askew. You might recognize her. She's been here before. She is the Principal Systems Engineer for Trideum, the Trideum Corporation Systems and Technology Sector. 30 years, DoD, academic and commercial systems engineering, and test and evaluation experience. So you've been busy. Now, this is your second interview. Your first one we talked really nearly exclusively about model-based systems engineering, as everyone knows it, as doing projects in aerospace or defense or maybe even commercial, but doing engineering projects. And you were pretty enthusiastic about where it is. Now, this has been a couple of months. I want to say, has anything changed about where systems engineering, model-based systems engineering was then and is now? Because it appears to me, as a non-engineer guy looking at Instagram, that the scientific world, the engineering world changes daily. So how about it? Are we down the road a little bit from a couple of months ago?
I would say a couple of months in model-based systems engineering world right now is a really long time, because we have new software releases that are coming out. We've got the launch of SysML v2, which is the second version of the systems modeling language. That has brought some huge changes in how the systems are being modeled and the tools really that we're using. So all of the tools are updating for the new language. I mean, this is more than just going from Windows XP to Windows 10. This is a bigger change than that. It's actually how the language is constructed. So there's a lot of changes that have gone on since the spring, and that's just one of them. I mean, we've got a lot of different tool sets out there. Have been hurrying to get the new language incorporated into it, and then you throw all of the boom in AI and artificial intelligence capabilities, tools, and all kinds of doodadery they got going on. There's a lot that's gone on the last few months.
Okay, so at the time we talked, it is where it's the future now. You talked about that. But you also said there was a little pushback from companies that have been doing it one way and don't want to go into the time and expense of going to model-based systems engineering. Is there as much of that, or some of the companies that were pushing back in the spring? And you said that, I thought, she's right. We talked in the spring. Are more companies getting on board? Which across the board, everybody tells me you're going to have to, because it's how you stay competitive.
Right. Yeah, the competition is definitely involved in doing more and more of that. And our international partners, there's a lot of model-based systems engineering advances and digital engineering at large, that is being done overseas by our partners as well as our competitors. So we have to keep up in it. I mean, that's just how that's going to go. And with the languages and the models and the applications going on, it's just your imagination can run wild with the things you can do. You give an engineer a new tool, they'll find a way to use it it was never designed for. So there's a lot going on in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned the international competitors, and without calling, just possible adversaries. Let's say it that way. That's the way that people who don't,
friends and frenemies. Right?
Possible adversaries are they're not constrained by the time and expense of getting into digital engineering / MBSE. Not as much anyway. Is it because they don't necessarily always own their own companies? It's a government backed thing. So is that the kind of thing that people in American free enterprise should notice? They're doing it. They're not doing it because it's fun. They're doing it because it's necessary.
I think they're doing it because it's a force multiplier. Yeah, okay. It's an efficiency enhancer. I mean, when you're doing digital engineering, if you're doing digital engineering, that means a lot of things. But it's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. It makes things that are routine tasks that are just time consuming for a person to do a lot more effective and efficient, because you can automate things that, especially very repetitive types of things, data searches and things of that nature, formatting, generating templates. If you want to go out on ChatGPT and I need to create a working group charter, well, I can go and look for one through my stash of old notes or a stash of your notes and go find an old template, or I can just whip out to Chat GPT and say, draft me a working group charter for a software development project for high school students. In about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, now I have a draft of that working group charter, and I can take it and tailor that template that it's given me, or even you can put, if your prompts are good, you can have it actually generate a lot more. So something that might take me from scratch, maybe an hour, I can have done in under a minute.
Okay, so you're talking about AI there, and AI is obviously being used in America. Is it being used by those quote possible adversaries? Are they?
Oh yeah.
Do they put their arms around and saying, help us out?
The folks that we work with very cordially, those folks, they have a good set of rules, and they're compatible with our rules, comparable. And then there's the other group of not so nice players, and they may be nation states, or they may just be, some kind of unpleasant group of people who want to do harm. They don't have rules. So all of the legal boundaries and edges that we have to stay within, other groups do not. And so that's part of, in the threat profile that you look at things, our worst, most dangerous adversaries have no rules.
Yeah.
It's like a criminal element, Do you say, are you worried about somebody calling up and scamming you? Well, they don't have any rules because they don't follow them. And so that is one of the things that for us is a little bit of an obstacle, talking about things, the obstacles to us implementing digital engineering. Well, we have a very litigious society. Naturally, we've got more lawyers per capita, I think, than most countries. And because of that, we've got more laws.
Company.
Right. Well, we've got more laws. And because of that legal construct, it makes it more difficult. So if you do want to do something new or different, you have to make sure you're doing it properly and within those guidelines that we're given. I mean, because we've got some third rails you don't want to touch legally.
But saying that still, I mean, if you look and the people you're competing with, whether they're in America or somewhere else, and somewhere where they're not necessarily thinking the best for us, doesn't that behoove you to, well, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? Maybe we need to do it. Is that not an indicator that some of the pushback, some of the folks hesitant should
be doing? You would think, but a lot of times people keep looking back down at their wallets and say, I can't afford everything, so I have to pick and choose what I'm going to buy. And it all comes down to that value proposition of, for your organization, whether it's a DoD entity or a commercial entity or a nonprofit, you only have so many dollars. That's a finite resource, just like you only have so many people. How do you go about determining where you're going to spend that resource? And if the model-based systems engineering just gets prioritized down, then it's below the cut line. You may be on your list of things you really, really want to do, but you just can't. So it's, there's a lot of obstacles. Now, I will say a lot of people of a more mature and experienced age bracket, maybe a little more change averse. We've gotten good at what we do. We like to keep doing what we're doing it the way we've always done it. And now you're going to make me learn something totally different that I'm not real familiar with. So there is that change aversion. It's a risk aversion thing, really.
Okay, so money and education time to get good at it or to learn how to do it.
Right.
At the same time, that's out there. You've got AI. I mean, and spending time and money is about competition, but it's about being better at what you do. So you've got that, which is something people are hesitant, but then you've got AI, and you've already mentioned it, that helps you do what you do.
If it's only a tool that's useful if you use it.
Yeah.
And you got to know how to use it, because AI is, it's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's not intuitive. There's a reason they don't call it AI, okay? It is not intuitive. It doesn't know what you really want. It knows what you put in. It knows the details and the words you use, but it doesn't know your intent. And that's part of the difference in AI versus, using actual real life people to do things. People can take that intent, even though it is not implicitly stated,
Yeah.
because that's the context of your,
Yeah.
whether it's a query or research that you're doing. I understand what your intent is because you've expressed it to me, but how do you express that to software? I mean, you can program some things in, but I don't want to over
Yeah.
expand into what software programmers can do. But I mean, they can do some real magical stuff. But that intuition piece of it, I have not yet seen that in software.
Okay, so I didn't do
Bless
this
their
very
hearts.
well. The trans. So we've got the time and money. I was trying to get from one thing to another, but time and money, and you've got to decide whether you want to put those things in, and then AI, you've got to decide how heavily you want to go into that. But
Oh yeah.
both of them are going to model-based systems engineering and using AI if you're there. They are all about enhancing the performance of what your company is doing. Am I right? Am I
That's
saying
right.
that right?
I think so,
We're,
yeah.
we're
Very much.
making better at it, more efficient, faster, hopefully, cheaper.
Well, and hopefully you can actually make it more objective because
Yeah.
you can remove bias from a person's perspective. The things that I might not value as much. Whoever the coder is
Yeah.
of the AI and the engineering tools that you've got, those are the people who are setting the expectations. If you have someone who is biased writing code, they may write the code so that the code, when it executes, reinforces that bias. That I'm not going to look at anything that has, that's high in fat calories. I'm not going to look at any recipes that are high in calories because calories are bad. Fat is bad. No, but what you do with that, I mean, you can write it so that those biases are minimized, and that's part of it.
Okay, so actually,
I think that's pretty cool.
she's not here to talk about what we just. But actually, what we wanted to talk a little bit or a lot about how model-based systems engineering, or at least the concepts, can be used in something other than developing a really good missile or a rocket or a car assembly line. There are other ways to take what model-based systems engineering or just digital engineering brings to the table and use them in other ways.
Oh, yeah.
And so talk about that a little bit.
Well, we've got all these new horizons that we're looking at. That any industry out there, anything, whether it be finance or healthcare or education, all have opportunities where they can leverage model-based systems engineering. And with what we like to say about the modeling is you only model as far as you have to. So your models don't have to be enormous, and they don't have to be done with really expensive tool sets. There's a lot of free tools that are out there that just a hobbyist, if you want to call the hobbyist, can do. I mean, I can make a model of my garden so that I can figure out what my watering schedule is going to be, my water consumption and fertilizing. And so I can figure out when my husband can take those 2 weeks off and go play golf, in Scotland or whatever.
Which is
So-
one of the variables in the model that has to be taken. Yeah.
Right. So you can take all of these things into consideration that if you had to keep it all up in your head, it would require extreme focus and concentration. So being able to put these things in a model gets it out of my head and written down somewhere. That's why we make lists, right? Same kind of concept. We make models because that way we can take all of that knowledge and have it all accessible. I mean, if I'm trying to remember everything, I'm probably going to miss something that I learned back when I was, a little bitty baby engineer and that is relevant today. But if I've got it in my model has that, and I can still access that information.
And this is
It takes memory loss out of it.
And the
as long
model is digital, so
Right.
it's not, your computer isn't doing anything to it. You're not going to lose that piece of paper.
In theory.
So if you're a business person, you're hearing this and you're thinking, what are they talking about? But I have had people in the military say one of the things that excites them is the fact using Mbse concepts in business applications to keep track of what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're a company that does a lot of things, keeping track of what you're doing is a big deal. and having a model of what all the different products you want to
Yeah.
come out of that. So it's absolutely an MBSE thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When you think about it, a model is a representation of something that is real.
Yeah.
So, program managers say, I don't have any use for this modeling stuff. Well, some program managers also are using Power BI, which is a business intelligence tool,
Yeah.
right? They are creating integrated master schedules and IMS. They've got schedules, they've got planning, they've got all of these budget projections. Those are all models. And what model-based systems engineering does, it does the systems engineering part with the models that you have. And so you're creating a model with an intent to be able to accomplish an activity or get a result or answer some question you want to have. So it may be that you want to know, you've got your cost projections to produce your system, and the program manager wants to know, if I change this part, how does that affect my production line time? How does that affect my production costs and my retooling? Well, you're going to have to know, changing that part, where that part's used. How are you going to know that? You can go back and look at some old engineering drawings, old school paper stuff
Yeah.
that we have stored in volumes and volumes on the arsenal, or you can pull up your digital model and do the search with that and find everywhere that one piece is attached. And it may be, if you're doing product line engineering, I have models of my base product and all the permutations of it that there are. I can figure out exactly how many times that one component's used.
Okay. What would you? It just dawned on me that if maybe we called it something slightly different than model-based engineering, model-based systems engineering, that maybe a lot of, like, a business or somebody with their garden might say, yeah, I can use that. It might be the MBSE that throws them off a little bit. Could you call it something else? I mean, do you know what I mean? Is there another way to describe it?
Oh, yeah. There's model-based, there's model-centric, model-enabled. You can put whatever words you want to go with it. Digital engineering is the all-encompassing piece of where model-based systems engineering is down here. That's a model-based systems engineering, which is part of model-based engineering, which is part of digital engineering. So, it's this big nested batch. You've got to figure out where does your systems engineering need models to enhance it, because systems engineering is really that holistic kind of viewpoint that will look across an entire systems design, not just one particular piece of it, like production or implementation or performance.
And anything with changeable parts, that you change one part and it affects another, is the kind of system we're talking about.
Right.
If you had a business, if you're going to spend more money on this product line, it's going to take away money from that product line. Things like that. And you've got to decide.
Right.
And that's the whole reason for having the model anyway, isn't it? To see the relationship of all the things you could possibly change and
Interfaces,
what it means.
Yeah, to look at the interfaces and the connectivity and dependencies. That's absolutely one of the strengths of the model-based systems engineering tool sets, because you can start to see, as you're designing your system, the things that have to communicate with each other. Now, whether it's software or hardware, it doesn't matter. Because, software systems have to communicate with other software systems. There's software modules all the way down into just, a few lines of code. You're going to have different little packets, right? All of those things have to interface with something else. And I've always liked to tell, students and anybody who'll listen, when we're talking about risks occur from two different things. And that's interfaces and assumptions. And if you are putting your information into a model, you're reducing your number of assumptions and you're increasing your visibility in your interfaces. So overall, the model-based systems engineering is all about reducing your risk of executing your program successfully. Does that make sense?
Well, some to me, a lot to people who are in the business. Now, we said a while ago about big companies. They've got to decide if they want to put the money into it and the having to not stop, but really pull back a little bit from what they're doing so they can learn and switch over. If you're a smaller entity, there are ways there, and you've already kind of said this, there are programs that are less involved. It isn't always a lot of expense and a lot of money to get into systems engineering or to use systems engineering concepts. Is it? Are there ways to get into it
Well, we talk about systems thinking, and that systems thinking is the foundation of systems engineering. I mean, you're engineering a system. That means you're man-made construction of a new thing. Systems thinking has to do with how you interact with the world around you.
Yeah.
And so that's the one piece that's free. And if anybody can do that, I really hope they do, because that is the one thing that keeps us successful in navigating through the world we're in, is being able to think of it beyond just, what's at the end of your fingertips. You can start to see the threats and the opportunities that are miles away.
Well, yeah.
And so you can navigate your way through it. I mean, that's how it goes.
Any number of examples. If you quit spending money on that, it's going to affect people over here. Or I mean, you're right, though. I mean, we might not all think in a systems way, but everything in our lives. I mean, the grocery store is a system.
Sure.
The
grocery store is a system. Your child monitors that you've got in your house, your security system, all of these enabled, you've got your application enabled electronics in your home, which I am terrified of a lot of those things, because who's really controlling those? I mean, I think it's me controlling some of these things, but
it's not who's controlling who can see it.
Well, there's that too, yeah. Because data that is inherently in
it's
computer
being
system,
transmitted.
if it's outside of your noggin, it is where somebody else can find it.
Okay, so say somebody has listened to what you've been saying, and they say, I think we could use that systems engineering stuff. And if they said, if they came to you and said, you know what, at the hospital, I think we could do this in medical care, and I don't doubt that hospitals are using systems.
I think some of them are just getting into
Mbse. I mean,
Right.
So what would you say? Heck yeah. Would you say? What would you
all
say?
day long, all day long.
So you're
yes.
Let's get it straight. You're an advocate for everybody figuring out a way to use this.
I'm an advocate for people to think smartly.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got a process in an emergency room, I have a daughter who has worked in an emergency room, right? They have a process for getting patients in the door, processed, triaged, and treated, and either sent back out or sent on up to the hospital for further work. That's a process. Just like a manufacturing entity take in raw materials, they process them and treat them and use them in some way to create a product at the output. It's straightforward. Input, process, output. IPO diagrams, have been using them for decades, or probably longer. Chris Crumley would have to tell you that one. But that's what it is. So whether it is in healthcare, I would love to see a diagnostics tool that people diagnosing, say, for infectious disease. What could it be? Here's my list of symptoms. You go on like places like WebMD, they have that kind of software now, that it has this massive database of diseases and symptoms and causes and all of that. And you can go search, my symptoms are this, and this, A, B, and C. What could it be? Well, one of their answers is always, you're going to die. And the other one is, don't worry about it. So somewhere between those two extreme answers is the truth, but how do you know? So the medical community, I don't want to replace my physician with AI or with some kind of software tool. However, I would like to be able to use those things.
It could be
to see if I need to go see my physician.
It could be something to help.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and it can help them out for sure.
And isn't that what diagnostic, pops in my head, colonoscopies? I mean, that's a tool to check the system.
It's a tool to check the system, right? You got to do that verification and validation piece of it, right? Yeah. No, it absolutely. And if you were to use it in a way that, they use a lot of computer-based models in epidemiology. And if you look, like our friends over at Hudson Alpha, doing DNA and genetics research, they have enormous models of our DNA. Now, are they complete? Probably not. I'm thinking they haven't quite finished it all out yet, because every time they learn something, they realize there's something else they don't know, which is how science is.
Yeah.
But the models that they have, as complex as they are of mapping the human genome, you take that and say, well, how can I manage my grocery store better? I got my little mom and pop restaurant, how can I manage my flow in my kitchen better in the restaurant? Things of that nature. You can have something as simple as looking at how a kitchen in a short order cook, or how I'm working my food truck. I mean, if you've got a food truck, we can create models of your food truck.
Okay. Okay. And you said systems thinking is free, but say somebody thinks they would like to go a little bit farther than that. And this is probably way late in our conversation to bring this up, but there are different degrees of entry or different things you can use. I mean, it's real expensive and you're going to have to go to school. I mean, there's expense and you do have to go to school a little bit, but I guess what I'm saying, there are degrees of, everybody doesn't enter one door. There are multiple doors to get to the same place.
Sure.
So I guess what I'm trying to get around to is you shouldn't be scared because we said it's going to be expensive and time consuming. There are, even for companies, a big company, they might not need all the tool to use everything that's out there. They might be able to use something that's a little less complicated for what they're doing. Am I asking that correctly?
Sure.
You see what I'm getting at?
I think so. There are a lot of ways, entries, we talk about barriers to entry. And if I can teach kindergartners how to think of things as systems, then any business can do it. That way of thinking is just learning how and then doing it over and over again. You have to exercise that muscle. But the tools you have to do it with, you need the right tool to do the job you have. If all I'm doing is taking a basic concept and creating a bar napkin, I'm going to pass that off to somebody else because I'm in the idea generation area of my company. I'm the good idea fairy, and I need to get it out of my head, off the whiteboard, and into a computer somehow so I can translate that over to the implementation team. I can do that with an architecting tool. They don't need detailed design. They don't need CAD drawings. They need something that's going to capture the concept. And so I can get just a concept capturing tool. And a lot of those are, very affordable. So for small businesses, if you wanted to create a patent, you don't necessarily have to have the real high-end expensive systems. You can work with the free software that's out there and be able to just capture your concept in a digital manner. And kids can do this in high school, middle school. There's nothing keeps them from it. I mean, we've got cyber patriot teams that are down in the fourth and fifth grade.
And it strikes me that if you've been doing interactive gaming, that you're kind of system thinking already.
You're already there. You're already doing it, but it's a matter of not just following the paths you've been on, but look for the paths you haven't. And that's that divergent thinking. That's, convergence coming to an answer. Divergent is looking at what are the possibilities. And the divergent thinking is what you really have to be good at the systems engineering piece, because you got to look at what could go wrong, what could go right, what are my opportunities that I haven't leveraged yet. And so you spend a lot of time doing what if I did this? So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But I mean, there is absolutely, the only real barrier to entry is your own limitations. If you want to try model-based systems engineering, there's 1,000 ways to do it. And you can do it for your churches, for your nonprofit group, for your Girl Scouts, Boy Scout troops. You can do that for your schools, for your teachers. There's a world out there that could be supported with model-based systems engineering.
Okay.
You just got to go get out of your skin and go try it.
So best Google it. You'll say what it is. So bottom line here, you say if you've got something that's a system, and it's hard to think of things that aren't systems in one way or another.
See, your system's thinking already.
This is a system, right? This is a system right here.
Very simple.
So if you've got something that's a system, you need to at least think about it, or certainly think of it as a system. But you can take it farther. You can get some information, learn about model-based systems engineering, and figure out how much do we need to get into this? I mean, and you recommend yes, don't you?
Oh, all day long. And one of the things that we talk about in our competitors and our adversaries, the people that wish to do us harm, that is what they're doing. They are looking at our systems to find vulnerabilities. They're looking at our systems to figure out what is it that we're not doing that we could be doing that they can do and get ahead of us. And that's, whether that's coming up with a new technology or implementing a new technique or just using something that we already have existing in a different way. So it's about looking at what the possibilities are. So you really have to be very open-minded about what is possible. And that's probably the biggest limitation that we have mentally in our own mental models, is that self-imposed limitations of, well, I'm not good at math, I can't do this. Guess what? A lot of the people I know that are great modelers, they may not necessarily be strong in math, but they're very good at visualizing and creating the models that we need to have
on their computer. If you have a 14-year-old, you're ahead of the game.
That's right.
All right, Susan, we could go on. There's 1,000 things. We will talk again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And thank you for being with us and hearing Susan Askew's wisdom about Mbse. And don't forget, you can watch this on DigitalWorks TV and a lot more. So please check us out even more than this. And don't forget, it works.